The startup class in ASP.NET Core configures the services and the app's request pipeline. It uses various conventions to set up the services and the application. In this video, let's look a bit deeper into the startup class, the conventions around it, and how it all ties together to start up and set up the application. Hello everyone, my name is Rahul and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this channel, I talk about .NET, DevOps, and cloud. If you are interested in any of these, please make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps me to grow this YouTube channel. Without much delay, let's head off to a console and create a new .NET API. I'll use the .NET CLI and create a new ASP.NET single-page React application template. So that is using .NET New React. If you are new to this template, you can check out the linked video where I talk about it in detail. Let's open this up in an IDE of my choice. So I'll use Rider here. So I'll give Rider 64 and specify dot to open the current project in the Rider IDE. You can choose any IDE of your choice. I have the application opened up in the IDE. So let's go to the Solution Explorer and we can see all the associated classes and controllers in here. In this video, what's of interest to us is the startup.cs class. This is the startup class that ASP.NET Core uses to start up the application. This is named startup by convention so that it is similar across all the applications. You can choose to give a different name if you want. The startup class has primarily two methods, the configure services and the configure method. The configure method sets up the application's request pipeline, whereas the configure services, as its name suggests, sets up the various services and components that the application might require. These services are usually used by the application using dependency injection. Both these methods, the configure and the configure services, is called by the ASP.NET Core runtime when the application starts. The startup class by itself is invoked by the application in program.cs when the host is being created. We can see here there is one usage and we can navigate to that usage. This takes us to the program.cs, which also lives along with the source code. That is right here above the startup.cs in this case. Here we can see when the host is getting created, the startup class is being invoked by using the useStartup convenience extension method. In ASP.NET Core, there are two kinds of host. There is a generic host and a web host. The generic host is recommended and preferred for all application types. The web host is simply there for backward compatibility. For using a generic host, as you can see here, it uses the host class and calls in the create default builder on that. This by itself is a static method which is getting called in the public static void main function, which is the entry point to this application. The host class encapsulates all of the application's resources such as the HTTP server implementation, middleware components, logging, dependency injection, etc. And it provides services that are available to the startup class. Navigating back to the startup.cs, here we can see that in the constructor, this is already taking in an I configuration. This is injected by the host on startup. This can also take an instance of I web host environment or an I host environment. So if I was to specify I web host environment, this will also get injected during startup. The configure method is used to specify how the application responds to HTTP request. This is done by adding middleware components to the I application builder instance. The host class creates an instance of the application builder and passes on to the configure method. This particular class instance is not available via the service collection or dependency injection. This is directly passed by the host to this method. In the configure method here, we can see there are a lot of middleware components getting added to the app instance using the use convention extension methods. These add different middleware components to the request pipeline. The middleware components are added and invoked in the same way as it is getting called. So the order in which these are specified here is important. I had talked about the middleware pipeline in ASP.NET Core earlier in a video here. Please check out that if you want to learn more about the whole middleware pipeline and how it works. The configure services method is optional and can be omitted if there is no services to be added. Here, you can see the iService collection is getting added with different services for this application. So in this particular case, it's specifying to register all the controllers and its associated views, and also add the SPA or single page application static files, which is using the client app/build folder. Again, I had talked about this in the single page application template. The services specified here are resolved using the built-in dependency injection service provided by ASP.NET Core. To explicitly add a service, we can use the add method on the services instance. There is a detailed video on dependency injection if you wanted to learn more. It will be linked here and in the description below. By convention, the ASP.NET Core runtime calls the configure services method first before calling the configure method. So any services that's registered inside the configure services can be used or passed in as a dependency on this function. Let's see an example for that. So if we go to the Explorer and add a new class, let's say I'm creating a dummy test class. So let's use the add and new class, and I'll call this test. Inside here, I'll paste in a class I have already written. This is simply a test interface which has an invoke method, and it is implemented using the test class. Let's add in the missing namespaces and then add this to the services collection. To do that, let's go back to startup.cs. Here I can say services.add transient, which is one of the lifetime scopes of dependency injection, and then I can specify the iTest interface and pass in the test class as the implementation. So anytime we request for an iTest, this is going to resolve this particular class. Let's make sure to hide this Explorer. Here in the configure method, I can now pass the iTest and pass in a name for that. When the application starts up, the host is going to create this particular instance of iTest class using this services container. Let's put a breakpoint here and also in the configure services method and run this application to make sure this is working as expected. So let's press F5 and this starts up the application. The application is running and you can see first it's hitting the configure services method. So let's resume the application and it has now hit the configure method. Here we can see that the test is now injected in with a valid instance. It has a random GUID that is generated as we have given in the class. So let's stop the execution. The configure and the configure services supports environment specific methods. This means we can create an overload of these methods based on the environment that it is running for. Let's create a copy of each of these methods and see this in action. So I'll select the entire configure services method and make a copy of that right below. I'll call this configure development services. In this case, this is applicable to the development environment name. And also, let's create a copy of the whole configure method and use it as configure staging, which will be for the staging environment. So let's rename this and say configure staging. So note, these environment names needs to match to the environments in your application. Let's make sure to put a breakpoint in each of these. So let's keep one for configure staging. Let's see the other one for configure, which already exists, and the other for configure development. We already have one in configure services. Basically, you would use these environment-specific configure methods if you have different configurations and services that needs to be registered based on your environment. Let's run and see how this works. So pressing F5, this time it hits the configure development services first because this takes in precedence than the configure services method because this is specific for the environment that this is running on. Now, if I resume the execution, it hits on to the configure method because that is what is taking precedence here because the configure staging is not applicable for this current environment. Now, how does the environment gets decided? In this case, if we go back to the Explorer, we can open up the properties and see the launch settings.json. So here we have the ASP.NET Core _ environment being set to be development. So let's stop this and change this to staging to see what happens. So the naming should be exact. In this file, there are two profiles. One is for the IIS Express and the other one which is using another profile which is named startup class. Now here we'll need to update both these environment variables depending on which profile you're using to start this application. In my case, I'm using the startup class profile which is shown right up here. So let's make these changes in both the places and press F5. First, it hits the configure services method because the other one that we have is for development. that is not getting invoked in this instance. So let's resume the execution. And this time, instead of hitting the configure method, this is now calling the configure staging. This is because the environment is currently set to staging. So you can use this appropriately based on your application needs to set up different application services or pipelines based on the environment. The startup class by itself can also be specific for environments. To see that in action, let's create a copy of this startup.cs class. So in Rider, I can use Control, click and drag and paste it inside the startup class itself. So this is going to create a new copy. Let's name this startup staging. Inside that, I can update this particular class name to be startup staging. Let's also make sure to fix the constructor and name it appropriately. Here, I only need 2 services because this is very specific to the environment. So let's remove the development configure services. Let me also remove the configure staging method because I can give everything inside the configure method, which is very specific for the staging environment. So now we have a startup class which is specific for staging. Let's leave the startup.cs as it is, so that will be called for development or production environments. Now, to specify the startup class, we'll need to go and update the program.cs. So here, instead of specifying explicitly the startup class, let's use the type of and give the assembly name of the startup class. So here, let's use startup and say assembly name. Before running this, let's go into startup staging and put a breakpoint inside the constructor here. Let's also make sure we have a constructor inside the startup class, that is up here. We no longer need these methods in here as well, so let's remove them. So we have a configure staging, let's remove that as well. Let's run this application. Under launch settings, we still have the environment set to be staging, so this should be invoking the startup staging class in this case. So we have the breakpoint hitting the startup staging class. So let's resume the execution, and the startup.cs never gets invoked in this case. So let's click stop, go to the launch settings.json and revert this back to development. Let's run this again, and in this case it appropriately picks up the startup class because there is no startup development. So it's always falls back to the default startup if an environment specific class does not exist. So let's resume execution, and it works as expected. Earlier, when we started, we did mention that the startup class is just by convention. So we can have the application even without a startup class. So doing that would mean we'll need to specify the startup procedure inside the program.cs itself. To show that in action, let's copy these 2 methods, configure services and configure, from the startup.cs into the program.cs. So let's copy that, go to program.cs, and make sure we paste it in the appropriate place inside the class. Let's make sure to include all the namespaces that's required for these 2 functions. So we have the configure and the configure services living within the program.cs. Let's make them static so that we can refer that when we create the web builder. So let's make both of them static. Now, instead of specifying the webbuilder.useStartup extension, we can specify webbuilder.configureServices and pass in the configure services method here. We can also write an inline lambda function, but I prefer to keep this separate because we have the functions already. So to call the configure method, you will have the configure extension and pass in again the configure method. Since the configure method here takes in only the iApplicationBuilder as a parameter, we'll have to remove both of these and resolve them from the application services. To do that, let's remove these. Let's declare a iWebHost environment and use the app.applicationservices.getService method. So here I can again pass in the iWebHost environment. So this is going to resolve the environment from the getServices collection. This is basically the application's service collection that we had set up earlier in this configure services method. If we want the iTest, we can resolve it similarly. Since I'm not using it inside this method, I'll not do that for now. So let's make sure to close this, and this runs very much similar without having a startup.cs. If we run this application using F5, we can see this is working as fine as before. So now it's not using the startup.cs classes, but it's just calling the program.cs functions. It no longer uses the startup.cs classes, but directly using the functions that we have defined inside program.cs. It opens up the default page template for the React single page application. When defining the configure services inside the program.cs, if we were to call the configure services methods multiple times, let's say like this, so we could say dot configure services again and specify a new set of collections, then these services are going to get added one on top of other. If you were to use multiple times the configure method, then the last one is going to take precedence. So depending on whichever ones you call last, that is what is going to be applied. The startup class by convention sets up the application's request pipeline and the different services that it requires throughout its lifetime. I hope this helps you to understand more about the startup class, the conventions, and how it is getting invoked from the host classes. If you like this video, please make sure to hit the like button and leave in any comments, question, or feedback down below this video. If you want to be notified in the future of similar such videos, please make sure to hit subscribe. Thank you and see you soon.